Is it on already?
Yes.
Okay. Likkutei Devarim, page Aleph, second column, a little bit past midway in the page. Okay, so the Alter Rebbe was explaining that in order to come to this level of connection, you need to have the level of his baininess into all the worlds are only array of Malchus, and even Malchus is a level of Makif. But on the other hand, you do a mitzvah, you connect to the essence of Hashem, and that therefore you could do it 1 second, you could do tshuva, like he quotes the Gemara, if a man does kedushin with a woman, and he says on the condition, I'm a tzaddik gamur, so even if he's a complete Rashi, it might be Mukadeshes. Why? Because maybe he did tshuva. And if he did tshuva in a split second, then he would be a tzaddik. So he said, therefore these words are Anechi. Misha Nechatzmusi is Baruch Mitzavcha. Lashon is Kashrus. So therefore, what do we say in Shema? After the meditation of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, like he said. And then he comes to V'yohavta Hashem Elokecha. Then we say, V'hoyu advarim ha'ela, will be these mitzvahs, Asher Anechi Mitzavcha. That it comes from the level of Anechi, Mitzavcha meaning binding, and not from the Shem Kved Malchusa Yisbarach Hayem Davka V'lei L'mocha B'elam Haba. So he says, he asked a question before, how is it possible that every day Torah mitzvahs should be new? So he said, when a person realizes that mitzvahs are not like Elam Haba, which is Gan Eden, which is only a ray or whatever. It's the essence coming from Anechi. So if it's above time and place, there's no problem every day being new, because there is no time and place, so to speak. And when a person meditates this in every day, you'll be mamish, brand new. Because you can bring down from the essence of Hashem. Meaning a person needs to realize the following. My connection when I do a mitzvah to Hashem is I'm connecting to the essence of Hashem. The level of Anechi Mitzavcha. Anechi, the essence of Hashem, is binding you. So therefore, if you think about this every day, in a way that you internalize it, so every day mitzvahs could be brand new.
Okay, therefore in Shema, how come you came up here and not Anechi?
Huh? Does it? Anechi Mitzavcha.
No, Shema is
because this bainness can't be an Anechi. That's way out of whack. Anechi, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad has to be in the level of Seviv and Mamala. That you come to Hashem Echad, really the concept of Yochid. But you can't be Mizbeinin in Anechi because it's not even shaykh to think about. What?
If somebody concentrates on Shabbat, is that enough for the davening of the day?
No, it's enough for the mitzvah of Shema of the day. Then you come to a higher level, which is the Amidah.
Why do we need Amidah if we're doing all this thing? We bring HaKadosh Baruch Hu down.
Because we need to bring down this level into the physical world. Baruch Atah Hashem. Health, wealth, this, all the 18 brachas of Shmoneh. So we need to bring down that level into practical world. Therefore, the mitzvahs are called the 248 limbs of Hashem. What does it mean? Why are they called 248 limbs of Hashem? Meaning, it's the bringing down of the chayes of Hashem from the will. And that's meaning, what's the concept of a limb? There's a vein from the brain that dresses into the limb. That makes it move. Let's say you want to move your hand, yeah? How does it work? The brain, it's connected to the brain. The brain says move, instantaneously you move. So the same thing, the 248 positive mitzvahs, and the 248 different ways Elokus comes into the world. in the two ventricles of the heart. The meaning, the left side, Gvura Yira, which is the bitterness, that he's indulged and sunken in worldly thing. The distance of Hashem. So he says like this, the two parts of the heart, the right and the left. So right is chesed, which in this case he's saying is a level of simcha in doing mitzvahs and connecting to Hashem. This left one is a level of bitterness, that the person in Nebuch is so sunken into gashmistic pleasures that he neglects connection with Hashem, and therefore he mitzvah shenethabasiyah. V'ayin sefer shalbeinu sefer perak lamedal v'chol shetei amridus yosef me'aheder. The more bitterness you have from your distance from Hashem, then you can have more simcha when you do a mitzvah. In other words, like this: if a person feels, the neshama came from such a lofty place all the way down. Not only did it come down into my body and the Yetzirah, which is bad enough, but it also came into me. I'm sunken, I'm totally immersed in physical pleasures. So the more you realize how far you are away from Hashem, the more simcha you'll have when you get doing mitzvah. Because then you realize you're connecting to Anechi. So both things have to go together.
When someone is immersed that deep, he never thinks that.
Is the real pity on somebody is they don't realize they're sick. Talking about spiritually, emotionally. A person who knows he's sick, there's hope. He'll go to the doctor. Correct? Or at least whatever. A person, the worst thing is when you don't realize you're sick. So he said, yeah, from one side, the more you realize, you don't even realize you're sick is the biggest problem. A person who does things that are wrong and thinks they're right, that's the worst. You do something wrong and you did something wrong, that's good. There's hope. I know I did something wrong, go and get cured. When I do something wrong and I think I'm right, that's the worst of the worst of the worst.
Sometimes you feel like you're so down, you're hopeless, you're so sick, you have done so much.
That's why Dr. Rabbi is saying over here, when a person feels helpless and hopeless, and he realizes that by one little mitzvah I can connect to the level of hayim, anechi mitzavcha hayim, that causes him to be simcha. Because he sees there's light at the end of the tunnel. When you're in the tunnel and you see light at the end of the tunnel, you already have simcha. Even though you're still in the tunnel, it's still dark. The worst thing that can happen is when a person, that's how Chassidus explains about Yechon and Kohen Gadol. He was a Kohen Gadol for 80 years, and then he became a tzeduki. So simply means he became an apikaris. That's the simple meaning. Chassidus explains, "V'nasit tzeduki agvon recht bezich," meaning he justified everything that he did. He became, I'm a good Jew. I'm perfect. That was, so I went in 80 times in and out, so look how great I am. That's his problem. He became a tzeduki. Reform Jew. Reform Jews today are not tzedukim. They just don't know. They never learned. Yeah. But that's why a person who is not religious yet in this world, most of them today are not apikursim or chalo Shabbos. They just never learned. They don't know.
I suppose that's the power of people. And somebody who doesn't know, they think that they know everything.
Yeah.
That's the power of people.
That's Amalek.
That's all.
Yeah, there's Rebbeinu.
It's also a defense mechanism for people who have real emptiness inside to project this image of
For now, that's correct.
Yeah, everybody's saying everything that's right, but the bottom line is it doesn't affect us. Even though this revelation is not now, you do a mitzvah, you don't see it. But and that's what it says. A person plants tzedakis, matzmiach Yeshua, and salvation grows from it. Vayisha Hashem ishin ayin heina, which are the 375 revelations of godliness. It's like a person, he knows that in the bank he has thousands and thousands of diamonds and pearls and all that. He's very happy even though he doesn't he doesn't even see them because they're locked in a box. But you know you have it. You don't see it now, but you know you can see it. So that's the same thing. The simcha of a mitzvah is now I don't see what I can't put on tefillin. I don't feel anything, but I know that it's. But the Alter Rebbe says now, this is the way it's supposed to be, but it's not. The way it's supposed to be, a person is supposed to feel his distance from Hashem, and because of that, want to become close, like the meridus that causes the simcha, like the Alter Rebbe says many Maimarim, and then you have the simcha because you're going to connect. But that's the way it's supposed to be. That person should feel bad of his distance, how far he is away from Hashem. But he said, Avok she'ena kain, but it's not like that. And what is the meridus from? Minyane elam haza. He's depressed from worldly things when he doesn't have bana chayim mezayne, he doesn't have children, he doesn't have health, he doesn't have a lot of money. V'chein as-simcha mishleim is bahem. And this, what is his joy? Basically, what is a person depressed? He doesn't have money, he doesn't have this, he doesn't have that. What's his simcha when he does get the physical things? So he says, Zehu b'chinas gilui nitzas elokai b'seich nefesh habamis. That's the golus of the spark in the nefesh habamis. And that's what the pasuk says. Tzion b'mishpati podeh. The Maimon started Tzion b'mishpati podeh. That Tzion will be redeemed with mishpat, and Meshavel, its returnees with tzedakah. What does that mean? Loshen Tzion means simon. And simana, Tzion actually means a siman, a sign. That's the word Tzion. When you have, Gemara speaks about signs on graves are called Tzion, because it's a sign, a mark on the grave that you should know where it is. That refers to the internal level of the heart. Va'avativ is the natural instinct of love. Va'avapanim is hamustadis b'levish Yisrael. In other words, the worst thing that can happen to a Jew is like the Rabbi used to use this analogy. Somebody spits at you spits in your face, and you say, "Wow, look at this bracha of rain." You know, you're so low, you don't even get it. You know, that's the worst thing. He says, the problem is, the way it's supposed to be, you feel far from Hashem, and therefore I want to connect to a mitzvah. But the reality is that you don't even realize that. You're just not interested. So he says, what's the story? V'gami b'gol is not only that, this hidden natural love. Tzion b'mishpati pada, yeah? That means Tzion needs to be redeemed. Right? Tzion b'mishpati pada. Tzion is redeemed with mishpat, which we'll soon see what that means. What it means is, Tzion, the mark refers to the essence of the hidden love that every Jew possesses. And that is so in Golus, you don't even feel it. You have it, but you don't even feel it. V'gami b'Golus, and it's not only that, it's even in Golus. So how do you do it? V'tzion b'mishpat, tipada b'mishpat. Hainu halachas, like it says, halachas of Torah, like it says, kamishpat orishin. When by Yosef were there with the dreams of the butler and the baker, he told the butler that you're going to go back, kamishpat orishin. What do you mean, kamishpat? Targum says, ki hilchas kamaisa. Like the first halachas, meaning mishpat means halacha. Vaynu k'mayu shaman azal. Ein hagolis miskanshis ele b'schus mishnayis. What will end the golus? The merit of mishnayis. The mishnayis, the same letters as neshama. Shenamer kam ki yitnu b'goyim. Ki Torah od, because Torah is od. So in other words, how do you redeem this level of the neshama that's so stuck in evil you don't even realize how bad you are? Or like the pasuk says, Rabbi used to quote this pasuk, Samim l'chayshech v'afeilul gadol. People think darkness is light, and afeilu, which is even a heavier level of darkness. People think that, it's so dark, and yet they say, what light, what revelations, what great world, and so on and so forth. They don't even realize how bad it is. That could be the worst, that's by the way, the worst thing possible.
Now that you don't realize we lost it in
Well, we not only didn't realize, we actively did against it. And then it's a v'shaveha, and it's returnees, plural, that's beid chalali alev, 2 parts of the heart. Shavu yamamish, hamamish imprisoned, kimiri reshoy seru'u yaliyasari chukim Hashem, because the bitterness that's supposed to be because of the distance from Hashem. What is the person depressed about? Not because he's far away from Hashem. Why? Because he doesn't have Gashmias. He's depressed because he doesn't have this and that and everything else he wants. And the same thing, Simcha, that was supposed to come from mitzvahs. What is it? Simcha is... it comes from worldly things. So he said, and therefore you're mamish embittered, imprisoned. The definition of prison means somebody else controls you. When you control yourself, you're not in jail. Like you go into a room and lock the door, you're not in jail. Even though you're behind the locked door like a prison door. Why is it? Because you locked it, you can unlock it. If somebody else locks you in a room, then you're in prison. So he says, the nefesh shalikis of the Jew is so imprisoned, he's so controlled by nefesh habamis, he doesn't even realize that he's really enslaved and he thinks he's liberated. So therefore it's really golus. Mashenkin Tzion is only b'lu'umazeh. There's no level of Tzion in evil, because the essence of the neshama, there's no level like that in it. They can only be redeemed with tzedakah. V'shavel, meaning the captivity of the nefesh shalikis in the chambers of the nefesh habamis can only be redeemed with tzedakah. What's tzedakah? Rachmanis. When you give tzedakah, it's the act of rachmanis. You pity the person you're giving tzedakah to. Meaning, rachmanis hala'ani. So therefore, what does a person need to do to get out of it? You need to have pity on yourself that you're so sick, I don't even know I'm sick. I'm in so much ingolus and I don't even realize I'm ingolus. It's like the Ravzah said, the Rabbi Rashab's brother said, the Gemara says, Shaita asel rachim olav. It's forbidden to have pity on a shaita, on a fool. So he said 2 things. He said, first of all, can you imagine the pity that there is on a fool that even Torah says you can't have pity on him? You can imagine how much pity you have on him because Torah even says, understand? It's such a pity on the fool because even Torah says you can't have pity on him. Or he defined it in a different way. Shaita, asa means bound, right? Asa means bound. He said what the Torah really means, shaita, asa, you're bound l'rachim olav. Not it's forbidden to pity him. You're bound to pity on him. Who is the shaita? When a person sins, it's the ruach shtus. A person sins, it's temporary insanity. So he says, how do you get rid of the shaita? The shaita is, you're so deep in jail, in prison, and you don't even know of it. That's the worst. So it says, you have to have rachmanis on it. That's the level of tzedakah. Spiritual tzedakah. and he says, Mida connect Rachim Aleinu, V'sein B'libeinu, Bino Liba. And like it says, look in the Gersa Kodesh, and the Pasuk Zeret Tzedakos, or on the Pasuk Vayamaisa Tzedakos Shalom. Okay? So bottom line is, the Alter Rebbe is explaining this whole concept. Tziyim b'mishpat tipad. Then he went off into Vayu Advar Ma'ela Hakim it says Binu, and he said there's baininess, and you realize it is Takanu Anechi, comes from Anechi, not like all the other places. So then the Alter Rebbe comes back to Tziyim b'mishpat tipad, which basically refers to the baininess of a person realizing how low they fell that they don't even know they fell. They're so sick they don't even know they're sick. The Welt says in Vart that when Mashiach comes, everybody's going to get healthy except the fool, Shaitan. Today you're not allowed to say the word retarded. It's like saying Schwarze today, you can't say it. It's a bad word. But anyway, so it says, when Mashiach comes, everybody's going to get healed except the fool. Why? A guy has a heart problem. He's going to go to Mashiach and say, Mashiach, I have a heart problem. He'll give him a bracha, be healed. A fool thinks everybody else is crazy, not him. So a fool is going to go to Mashiach and say, Mashiach, you know you're crazy? So he's not going to ask for a bracha for himself, so he'll never get healed.
When we say fool right now, is this someone...
The what?
When you say fool right now, the capacity you're defining it, is it someone who's actually mentally retarded that's actually created them, or is someone...
Here he's talking about a shaita means a spiritual fool that doesn't even realize how bad off he is. No, it says after the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, Nevuah, prophecy was given to the fools and to the kids. Whatever that means, it's not irrelevant now. But the bottom line is, that's the concept of a shaita today. Rosh Tus, know that he's doing a mitzvah, he thinks he's still connected. And now that he thinks he's highly connected. He thinks him and God are like partners, you know? It doesn't work like that.
Why Gemara says you cannot have pity on the
I don't know.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
You see a crazy person, you should not feel sorry for him.
No, it's okay. Also, you're bound to have Rahman. It's okay, have Rahman. It should be our worst sin that we have pity of fool.
So what is it? What is this?
It just said that you can interpret it differently.
You could have. You're bound to have pity on him. Huh? Yeah. Okay. What's relevant for us is we are the shaitim, we are the fools. We don't even realize how far we fell. And the Alter Rebbe says, so have Rahmanas on yourself. Okay. Kumesha Kosev Vidrazut. Parshat Sare Shebchin Madrega Bracha Now that comes from Pnimis Alev, which is above the level of Ava, which is seeing. Okay, over. Okay. Okay, skip like 5 lines. Just said, look here. Vine Reisim Chochma Nafka. Torah comes to the level of Chochma, which is the level of Baruch. Lochein Tziyin Shebechines Bracha b'mishpat tibada through hilchos Torah. In other words, like this. Bottom line, how do you get out of this golus? The golus meaning you don't even realize how far you are in golus. He says you have to learn and you have to have rachmanis on yourself. See him b'mishpat tibada b'shavel b'tzedakah. Shavel though is worse than seeing. And have rachmanis on yourself. All the same thing. How do you have Rahmanas on yourself? Davening, in Shulchan Aruch it says, a very interesting halacha, that before you start davening, you're supposed to meditate, Begadlas hakel, v'shiflas ha'adam. So the Ramah says in Shulchan Aruch, beginning of Shulchan Aruch, you have to meditate into the greatness of Hashem and the lowness of man. Now what is that, if not what we're talking about here? What is the lowness of men? They're so low they don't even know they're low. So that's davening. You need siyun, and then you need tzedakah. Generally speaking, it's Torah and Gemilas Sodom. But avodah is the key to bind both things together. Siyun is a sign that refers to the natural instinctive love that the neshama has.
So when they said the guy has a siyun today,
Siyun? No, siyum, that's a different word. Siyum means finishing a mesechta. When the Rebbe would answer, asker al a grave is called siyun.
What's called siyun?
He said, the Gemara speaks about making a sign on the grave for tumah people shouldn't, okay? That's called a siyun. You know the Rebbe used to answer a lot, asker al siyun? That was the Rebbe's common answer when yes for a bracha, asker al siyun. Simply means, I'll mention it at the grave of the previous Rebbe. But obviously it means more than that. My uncle once told me that the Rebbe once answered somebody, Asker al-Atziyin. It means I'll mention it at the grave. And then the guy wrote in again, and the Rebbe answered, I will mention it Oida Pam al-Atziyin. I'll mention it again at the Tziyin. And he never went to the oil in between. So the Rebbe answered, Asker al-Atziyin. I'll mention it at the Friedrich Rebbe's grave. And he said, I'll mention it again at the grave, but he didn't go in between to the grave. So obviously it means something else. But the simple meaning, Tziyin, is the grave of a tzaddik, is called a Tziyin.
grave of a tzaddik
Yeah.
is a siyun.
Tzion. Like Zion, Tziyin.
With siyun.
Kimit Tziyin takes it say, but Tziyin literally means a mark,
The sign.
sign. But generally, the way the Rebbe would give brachas would write Asker al-Tziyin. But obviously, it doesn't mean stam, okay, the Rebbe is going to mention it. That's an unbelievable bracha in itself. The Rebbe is giving you a bracha. Tziyin is the same numerical value as Yosef.
Yosef,
Yosef and Tziyin is the same numerical value.
156.
Huh?
156.
Very good. You have good math. So you have to have Torah and you have to have Rachmanis, which includes Tefillah, because that's what davening is. Having Rachmanis. Vino over Rachman, Rachim Aleinu. The davening is the level of having Rachmanis.
The whole idea of the tefillah is you're having that model on all neshama that you
We're not having pity on Hashem. We don't have to pity Hashem.
Other people, you mean,
Have pity on ourselves.
like you felt so
It's easy to pity somebody else. It's much harder to pity yourself.
absolute.
It's very easy to change other people.
So
It's very hard to change yourself. Okay? No,
Why? I'm trying to change other people because I gave up on myself.
I know. No.
I'm practicing on other people.
Let me tell you a little secret. You can't change anybody else if you don't change yourself. No, it doesn't work. Temporarily, you can do whatever you want.
I'm practicing on other people so I can change myself.
You can't.
It's like you can't put tefillin on somebody if you really mean it.
If you really mean it, then they'll do it. Okay.
Exactly what we're looking for.
Hazak Baruch